So, hello. Today I have with me Simon Fowler from the Association of Genealogists and Researchers in Archives. Thank you for joining me today, Simon. We recently put out a call on Facebook for readers who were wanting to have their questions answered and who would normally come to a family history show perhaps and ask someone from AGRA for advice. So very kindly, we've got some members of AGRA coming to help us. And today I've got Simon Fowler. So Simon, today you're going to field some military questions. I mean, military isn't the only thing you do, but it's one of your specialties, isn't it?
It is indeed, yes. Yes, happy to help.
Excellent. So we've got, I'm going to start today with a question that Pamela Gordon has asked. It's quite a long question, this one, but she has said, my grandfather, John Septimus Mudford, born on the 9th of January 1897, was the last of 7 sons, hence his unusual middle name, which makes searching very easy. Now, she says, my brothers and I have compiled everything we know about his life on Pinterest, but I would love to know more about what he did in the First World War and what he did immediately after leaving the Navy. Of most interest, however, would be any information on his death. He apparently fell overboard between Shanghai and the UK in 1948. Would there be any records of this? Would there have been some sort of investigation? My grandmother remained a widow until her death in 2005 and rarely spoke about him. Now, Pamela says she recently downloaded his RNR records from the National Archives. She says there's 3 items, but I'm having difficulty reading them due to the tiny writing and rather fuzzy scan. I would love to know if there is anything of interest there. So, Simon, what can you say to Pamela to help her with her research?
I've been through the R&R records, Royal Naval Reserve records, which are online. And the Royal Naval Reserve was set up in the 1860s, really to enable seamen or people who might be regarded as being possible seamen to join the Navy in wartime. But unusually, Septimus joined in April 1914. He was a midshipman, a junior officer, trainee officer, and he became a sub-lieutenant in May 1918. The records are actually almost impossible to read at times, but I puzzled through some of them. He was on 3 ships during the war, the King George V, which was a battleship, and he was Radstock, which was a new destroyer that was launched in 1916, and HMS Amazon. And an HMS Amazon, the whole point of these records is very much it's a personnel record, really, like we get today, where your superiors will write comments on your personal report. In my case, usually must try harder, that sort of thing. But in his case, the officers are always very complimentary about him. And the most detailed one, the one I can read most of, he says when he was on HMS Amazon, his superior officer, whose name I can't work out, says, to my satisfaction, he has shown himself to be an able and adequate officer in all his duties. He's in charge of a watch at sea and is naturally a good, I can't read the next word, officer, and recommended for transference to the Royal Navy. And another report says he's a zealous and capable officer. But he doesn't join the Navy.
Okay.
Technically, he's discharged on the 21st of March 1919. But he's in Russia. He's part of the North Russian expedition at Murmansk until October 1919, where the British were interfering in the Russian Civil War of that period. So he was there for 6 months, and he must have done something to him, because the other entries are really about them writing to him saying, do you still want to become an officer in the Royal Navy? And he doesn't reply.
Okay.
By 1921, he's joined the Chinese Maritime Customs, where he spent the rest of his career, either in China or in Sarawak. I've checked the records of his death, the death registers, and all it says is that he's missing. He clearly falls overboard on the way back from China to England. what interested me really was what did he do during the Second World War? Whether was he a prisoner of war? Did he escape back to England, or did he spend his time in China in some way? Because I think that might have an effect on his death. But it's a very interesting records, a very interesting topic. There is a research project into the Maritime Service at Bristol University. And if you type in Chinese Maritime Service into Google, you'll come up with a reference.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. I know they're doing, they've got research on Chinese families in China going on at Bristol as well. So I don't know if that's part of that. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
So another question I've got here from someone called Jo Tolhurst. And she said her 4 times great-grandfather, James Graham, was in the Royal Artillery. I tracked him in the muster rolls from 1803 through to about 1810. He had a daughter born in Malta, 1812, and the family had returned to Fife by 1822, and he died in 1827. Can I find out any more about his service? Can we help Jo with that? So she's found some muster roll records, but no more than that.
Yeah. There are very few soldiers' records, service records, survived before the 1850s. So I'm not surprised he's not found anything. I found a possible pension register entry in series W69 at the National Archives, but unfortunately it's not online. So she would have to go to the archives herself to check it out, or employ a professional researcher or AGRA member to do it for her. And
of course, at the moment, it's closed, but that's something for her to look out for in future. So she'd need to either get someone to visit TNA or visit it herself. So I've got another question from Gloria Lynch, and she says, my 2 times great-grandfather, Alexander Macaro, was said to have been in the Black Watch and fought in the Crimean War and the Indian Mutiny. However, we visited the Black Watch Museum a few years ago and they had nothing on him. I have never found any military records for him. So can you help there at all?
Yes, I can. He was never in the army. There was another Alexander Macaro who was a sergeant in the 90th Foot, which was another Highland regiment. But he was born in Dumfriesshire at about the same time, and he served in the Crimea and Indian Mutiny. But because we know where Gloria's Alexander was born, that's Douglas in Lanarkshire, we know that the 2 gentlemen are different.
Okay. So she's barking up the wrong tree, possibly there.
Oh yes, yeah. It's quite common.
But these things happen, don't they?
Yeah.
And so I've now got a query from Tina Biddle. So she says, my brick wall is my grandfather. I cannot find him on the 1939 register. His name is Frederick Stanley Allen, and he was born in Derby in 1899. My grandparents separated, and I can find my grandmother on the 1939 register, but not my grandfather. I was told that he served in both wars, but cannot find anything. So can you help Tina there?
I may have found him in the First World War. When Frederick Stanley Allen was serving in the Royal Norfolk Regiment at the end of the war, and that fits in more or less with a birth date of 1899. But I can't confirm that because his service record doesn't survive. Well, I think the reason he doesn't appear in the 1939 register is that he re-enlists in 1938, 1939. He's certainly young enough to do so. And no servicemen appear on the register. And I think that's probably the reason why.
I think a lot of people don't realise that it didn't record those people. No. Okay, well, thank you very much. That's been really helpful, and I'm sure there'll be more helpful answers as well the next time we do this. Thank you so much for answering these questions for our readers. And if anyone needs any further help with their research, you can always get in touch with an AGRA genealogist. Yes, thank you. Okay, thank you, Simon.
Okay, pleasure.
All right then, bye.
Okay, cheers, bye.